Hi, I'm Paul Tyler, Chief Marketing Officer for NASA Financial Group, and first of all, would like to welcome you here to our program today. I'd like to thank the entire team who made Techstars Startup Week in Hartford possible, and I'd especially like to thank Laura Dynenheiber on our team for the hard work she's put into the event over the last 12 months. We have a great panel to discuss the topic today. What does it mean to be an InsurTech entrepreneur in Hartford? I've got to tell you, we've got a perfect panel for the discussion. Every one of our speakers have kind of walked on both sides of our universe, both on the corporate and the startup universe. And I think we'll get some really unique insights today. I do hope you'll ask a lot of good questions. If you don't, I've got some very bad ones lined up for this group. But in short order, I'd like to introduce three speakers. Bobby Schriesthoff, co-founder and chief product officer of Benekiva; Michael Davis, founder and CEO of Egghead AI; and Mark Stender, president of Intelligence. And I wonder if we could just kind of go around maybe in that order and just tell people what exactly is it that you do. Bobby, do you want to start with you?
Absolutely. So thanks, Paul, for the introduction, and thanks Techstars and the team to have us share our journey, share our story about being an entrepreneur in the ecosystem. What I do as a chief product officer and co-founder is I lead our innovation for Benekiva and implementation side of the house. What Benekiva is a software solution, software as a service solution for insurance carriers on the life, annuity, disability side. We help transform claims and customer service from the entire value chain. So on the claim side, from claim intake all the way to payout.
Excellent. And Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir. I'm Mike Davis, CEO as Egghead AI. Thanks, Paul, for the introduction. What we do at Egghead AI, we are a data analytics, data quality analytics company. So we try to help companies improve their decision making and manage risks as it pertains to data. So that's help you understand, trust, and find your information. In the past, a lot of this stuff has been done manually. So what we try to come into the process to do is differentiate by automating a lot of those tasks and making it easier for folks to find your information and to use it. So with regulations such as like CCPA, GDPR, we can help companies get up to speed quickly.
Great. Mark, tell us what you do.
Hey, Paul, how you doing? And thanks for having me. Very excited to talk about Hartford and the InsurTechs in Hartford. I might say that I'm kind of born and bred in Hartford. I grew up in the area. I went to college in the area, and I worked for an industry in downtown Hartford for over 25 years before starting up Intelligence in Hartford. So a lot of affinity for that. A little bit about Intelligence. Intelligence is a insurance capability ecosystem that pre-integrates with best of breed InsurTechs and makes it real easy for the insurers to connect and get value out of those InsurTechs. So think of it as Amazon Web Services for innovation officers, right? Connect once and be able to leverage the best of all the new technologies.
Excellent. All right. Well, I guess to start this off, love to hear your perspective. Maybe you can share a little bit of your backstory when you answer this. But why Hartford? What makes Hartford the place to build a business? And with that, Mike, why don't we start with you? What brought you here and to Hartford? And since you are native, and give us your perspective.
So I was in Hartford when all this stuff started happening. That is true. So nothing really brought me to Hartford as far as InsurTech. But I must say it has kept me in Hartford because, to be honest, I've been thinking about even moving elsewhere, California or New York, where the startup scene was much more robust. So over the last few years, Hartford is really becoming like a beacon of innovation as far as InsurTech. So I'm surprised that when I attend our local events, we see people from California. So they're doing the opposite. Now they're coming into Hartford to see all the interesting stuff that we have going on. What's great about Hartford too is a small enough space that you could really network with everyone. You would know someone that knows somebody else, but it's still big enough as far as opportunities because we are the insurance capital of the world, and people are really willing to talk to you and help you with your business. I must say it's not going to happen overnight, but it's comforting to know that you have the support going down the whole from the whole pipeline, from the mentors, from incubators such as NASA with Paul. Even the University of Hartford has a program as well. So all around you, there are touch points, and the main goal is to really help InsurTechs and small business grow. So I feel very blessed and lucky that I'm in Hartford at this time.
Yeah, thanks. Well, just to shift gears, Bobby, maybe you could give us a good perspective in terms of how Hartford stacks up against some other communities. You spent a lot of time in Hartford. Thank you, by the way. Maybe you could tell people, where you are and, why and how you and your team have invested time here in the community.
So we are headquartered, our company Benekiva is headquartered in Des Moines, Iowa. I live in North Carolina, and we came to Hartford in September 2018 for a pitch event that was hosted by InsurTech Hartford. And I will tell you that there were two of us traveling, we fell in love. We fell in love with the community that supports InsurTech. That's very rare to find. Sometimes as InsurTech, especially in North Carolina, it seems like I'm the only startup that's doing anything in insurance in my ecosystem. And it's always nice whenever I go to Hartford that I have like-minded individuals. I've met so many colleagues, partners. What we want to do in the future is, because we were actually planning on opening an office this year, and with COVID, that kind of derailed a little bit, but our goal is to have a stronger presence in Hartford. We typically travel every month prior to COVID. So we pretty much choose a week, and there's at least one representation from our company that meets with individuals. We take advantage of Paul. We are part of Paul's Nassar incubator, and we're very fortunate that you guys allow us InsurTechs to be present, even though we're not located physically there full time. I think it brings us a step closer. We're looking at Hartford from our pipeline, talent pipeline. We've started to hire a lot, and Hartford is one of those areas that we want to continue to invest in because you guys have invested in us.
Well, thank you. No, and I appreciate that. Your the vote of confidence, and I know when you're a startup, time and money is exceptionally valuable, and I'd say probably time more than money. And you've certainly invested a lot of time in getting to know the community and giving back here. So Mark, just again, a little bit of a different dimension. Talk to us about the opportunities for startups to work together to solve problems. You've almost been a connector of many different startups and many different carriers.
Yeah. So, I mean, Bobby mentioned community. I think that is the community. It goes a long way. It comes in the form of people, right? Where, the startups in Hartford, they know each other, right? They know this, the CEOs know each other, the CTOs know each other, they talk. And there's a lot of partnerships that are starting to emerge between them, right? Most InsurTechs, don't necessarily cover the whole value chain of insurance. So when they have an opportunity to work with a carrier, they might not be bringing all the capabilities to the table, and they have a community they can turn to that says, where they could partner up and bring other parts of the equation to it, right? And we are, our foundation at Intelligence is all about, connecting the dots between the insurtechs and the carrier systems to create something new and different. But that can, the partnerships have emerged, right? I really see things have gone from, exploratory a couple years back to really putting some of these technologies into carriers and combining them for the greater good. So it's more than just a community of feel; it's a community of active implementation.
Yeah, well, talk to me a little bit more about, since you spent a lot of time on the corporate side. What are some of those barriers that keep startups from delivering solutions where you've seen progress over the last year, with your efforts in particular, to make it easier for startups to win POCs, to win access or at least the opportunity to talk to decision makers?
Yeah, so I think, well, there's quite a few of those, right? So insurance companies are inherently risk adverse. So taking a new company that might not be fully funded, so to speak, and as living in the cloud, right? There's still a lot of cloud phobia in the insurance space, and then the overall just overcoming the requirements from a procurement and vendor management, things like that, right? Where the most insurers are built for the big guys, right? They're built for the the IBMs and the Oracles and the Salesforces, et cetera. They're not built for the little guys to easily onboard. But I think a lot of that's is beginning to pass, and companies like ours kind of help get connected, because I was that guy for 35 years. I was the guy on the other side who was the governance body of which technologies we should bring in and do they meet our security requirements, et cetera.
So you were Dr. No, is that right?
Yeah, I was on the other side there. We tried not to be Dr. No, but it was tried to be Dr. Less difficult. But again, like I said, most insurance companies, especially the tier ones, we're dealing with some of the larger players, and everybody kind of had to fit that box. And now there's just so many small players, so the requirements need to be different. And then you have the cloud, you have the security, you have the fear of the data leaving the premises. All of those things are some of the challenges, but they're all solved for in many ways with the insurtechs and the capabilities that are available today.
Yeah, Paul, if you don't then jump on what Mark just said, it's kind of interesting that you said that you were the gatekeeper for the tools, because I was also the gatekeeper, and you'll find that for a lot of the insurtech startups. So I know there usually is a hesitancy for the corporates to work with startups, but this is literally the same people that were working in your business and stuff, for doing the same type of thing with a better solution. So
that's the key, right? Like on the corporate side, I came from fintech or more on the financial services side in corporate. And the biggest piece is living the implementation nightmare. So when I talk to carriers, very similar. So 2-year implementation, at the end, they're scarred. So from an insurtech perspective, the way that, we've been able to approach our carriers is, you're not doing a 2-year implementation. Let's take it at a crawl, walk, run. Let's add immediate value. Maybe there isn't an integration. So the security people are, let's take it in phases. We've done that with several customers, knowing from my corporate background that, they're not gonna, they because we're smaller, in order to take a chance, let's add value, and let's add value in increments. So our crawl, walk, run approach has literally expedited, because we do security pieces in crawl, walk, run. We do implementation in crawl, walk, run. and they're not getting scarred at the end. They're getting they're actually excited about the next step. It's a lot of the issues that we talk about is they've had such bad experiences with former implementations, and they don't want another, especially newer company, and live through that nightmare again.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, a lot of carriers are, they're paying attention to the insurtech space, but many of them are dealing with application rationalization of their own 65 years of portfolio, migrating to the cloud, things of that nature. So, it's a great opportunity for some of these carriers to connect with some of these newer technologies. And the other thing is, we tend to think first about the tier 1 guys, but if you go into the tier 2, tier 3 folks, right, insurtechs really allow them to do things that they couldn't do at all before, right? It puts them on an equal playing field with the big guys almost immediately, right? And so, those types of things will help you get over the cloud fear and the any not invented here type of syndrome really quickly, especially in the tier 2, tier 3 space.
Yeah, well, thanks. Well, before we go to the next section of our discussion, we actually got a question from the audience. Thank you very much. What is one key differentiator that Hartford's ecosystem offers compared to other ecosystems? And I'll start with you, Bobby. And look, there's a lot of great stuff going on in different communities. I know you're North Carolina, great fintech cluster, Des Moines, clearly big insurtech cluster. I mean, if you were had a couple flavors of ice cream, I mean, what's Hartford's flavor?
I think Hartford's flavor is that I think in Hartford we've successfully built an ecosystem that's beyond just an accelerator, or we have really have purpose-driven content, whether you're at an incubator, whether you're an insurtech that's not part of that, there's venues to go to. So if you look at the different events that are hosted, in Hartford, it can tailor to folks that are not in Imagine program, because Hartford InsurTech attracts other InsurTechs. What's also another value add that I find is that there's surrounding communities. So it's easy to go to Boston, it's easy to go to New York. So when you, as a startup founder who has limited resources, if I can jam my activities in one cluster, so I can go to Hartford, I can go to other surrounding areas because there's good pockets of insurtech innovation. That to me is what I get excited about Hartford. When I go to Hartford, I take advantage of all of that.
Yeah, and I'll just to jump in, I'll say there's a really good white paper that's about to come out from Mass Economics and the Roger Woods Johnson Foundation. I saw the first draft and I had to, give our approval for some of this stuff, but it's a really good piece that kind of walks through the Hartford ecosystem and explains how all of these parts have sort of organically and not so organically come together over the last couple of years. It's amazing to see, even Mark, from like 2016 when I showed up here to where we were as in February. Okay, February. Right. Then came March. So maybe we could segue over into, the pandemic and where are you going? I'll kick this off. Our incubator, we said, look, the biggest value, Bobby, coming to a program is we'll have these, events where you can sit down and have food and get a beer with, some of the leading, business officers. Okay, fast forward now, good luck trying to even get in the door physically with some of these companies. It's changed dramatically. So I guess first off, just throw out a real broad question out to, that all of you could tackle is, how's the pandemic affected, your business and the connections with the community? Mike, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I definitely think it's made it, as you said, a little more challenging. I mean, before we were having at least one event, InsurTech event a month, like in person. And within that event, even to hop back on that question of what's the differentiator, it's literally all those people that Bonnie talked about from Boston, New York in one room. And, you get to talk to insurers, carriers, you could talk to, you have C-level folks right at your easy for you to talk to and communicate with. Now, everything's a lot virtual, right? It's easier to ignore an email than it is when someone is walking around, as Frank said on the other call, with a beer, right? Your guard's down. You get to meet more people, make more connections. So I think if it's anything, it's that networking is kind of diminished a little bit because, because a lot of things now, everything is online. We don't have those regular get together anymore. So you miss that opportunity to network with folks.
Mark, what's your perspective? How is this, has it slowed down communication? Has it made it more efficient? What?
Yeah, well, I mean, the communication with the other insurtechs remains strong, right? Because the partnerships were there, and whether it's Zoom or picking up the phone, et cetera, I tend to talk with many of the other insurtechs. The other thing about Hartford is it is the insurance capital, right? So there's a ton of insurers and talent there. And the dialogue, to me, what feels like it's shifted is it's gone from exploratory, insurtech being an exploratory thing, to how do we really put insurtech to work, is really where I feel like, since March, it's been much more practical. It's been much more use case and project oriented versus future vision, exploratory oriented. So, I see a lot of activity still going on. Our business is grown since March, and it's because of that. It's the really, let's get down to practical use cases and start to take advantage of this. COVID is really made it difficult for some of these insurers to continue to be productive with manual resources, and technology is no longer a risk. It's a necessity to automate. So I'm just seeing a shift to more practical use cases. Most of the engagements I have.
Yeah, Bobby, I don't think it slowed you down.
No, I mean, we are such a niche problem solving company. We focus on claims and customer service. So COVID has actually accelerated our company. We've grown our team by 30% since March. What's allowed us to do that is it's that what Mark talked about, the practicality. So yes, futuristic is important, but if your foundational elements are not there, like if you cannot create a digital experience with your customer servicing or claims experience, then how can you even start to look at the future? So that's where I've seen our growth is let's get you the pieces so that you can be up and running in digital without having to depend on coming to work. And that's what we found. Carriers that were using our solution, they didn't have any issues with remote work because everything's on the cloud, everything is transparent. The folks that we're implementing are now realizing that benefit because they're getting ready for potentially phase 2, phase 3 of what we're going to have in the pandemic. And that practical piece needs to be there.
Yeah, well, and I think of your particular offering, and I remember watching, the demos. Oh, by the way, you can process claims from a phone. You can process claims
anywhere, anytime, any device is our motto.
Right. Why do I want that? I have these people sitting here in the office, right? I mean, I think suddenly what was nice to have was a necessity, right? In your case. Mike, I think on data side, I think about data. I would think the demand for understanding data and being able to manage it better in a remote world, the demand has got to only be bigger at this point.
Right. Yeah. Especially with a lot of the new regulations that are coming down. Data is always going to be a critical component, especially now. And a lot of the solutions out there are very difficult for folks to implement. So that's why we make it simple and easy so that anyone can do it. We have a suite of tools, and if you don't want to use the whole suite, you could cherry pick. We have tools for data profiling, tools for business glossary, you name it. Actually, Mark and I have talked also about like a partnering to have our, our product probably be a potential in that whole AWS type environment where insurers could tap into that. But for sure, there's a lot, because a lot of stuff people have done on the prem is really hard to get access to the information. So in order to make it easier for companies, we put it in a centralized location, and just fingertips away from getting solutions and insights. So that demand is there. Because we're a niche in a sense that, again, we're combining data science and we're combining data quality. So instead of doing all these manual tasks in order to get your information or to find where there's discrepancy, let we call our bot Eggy. Let Eggy help you, right? Let Eggy find these solutions and preemptive find any problems out there. So I'm happy to be in the data field at this moment as well.
Yeah, I guess, Mark, in terms of, the work you're doing specifically, you say business is up significantly. Do you see your value proposition changing over the last 3 to 12 months or 3 to 6 months as a result of people working remotely?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, we connect the dots, right? We integrate and we take the newer technologies and connect them with existing technologies. So, and you just think about the insurance industry, right? It is, as much we'd like to say it's automated, there's still a lot of manual process in insurance, right? Especially middle market specialty insurance. And, the risk with COVID is the opposite right now, right? It's not technology risk, it's people risk, right? So now you're dependent on people. So straight through processing is great. Being able to take your existing assets and make them smarter and more straight through by adding AI, third-party data into the process to bridge some of those gaps that you have with people are common use cases that we're seeing. So take the things that you have, enrich them with data, enrich them with AI to make them less touch. That's really the practical use cases that we're seeing, as Bobby mentioned as well. So that area is up. And then, because we connect the dots, we are also getting involved rapidly with, all of the migrations, right? When you do migrations of on-prem to cloud, well, you have a lot of new integrations to do. You have a lot of data to move. You have transformations of the data. You have data quality issues of going from point A to point B. So we're rapidly being involved in all of those use cases as well. So.
Yeah. So I guess, what do you think the playbook? I guess what does the playbook for building a startup in Hartford look like today? How is it going to change, a year from now? Right now, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think most of the carriers have announced that they're going to be working from home at least until like mid-spring. I think Travelers has announced that. I think the Hartford has. I think AXA has as well. Do you see how, Mark, since you've worked on both ends,
Yep.
How do you think this is going to happen? I mean, what does this look like over if I were trying to, one of these startups, partnering with you, what would you be telling me to do to build relationships over the next 6 months when I can't meet in person, can't buy somebody a beer?
Yeah, well, as a result of this, a lot of partnerships are emerging, and that is our strategy, is to go to market through partnerships who already have the relationships with some of these larger carriers who are already past the procurement, et cetera. And There's a lot of technology companies out there that are looking for a new story to tell, right? And what we do, because we are, a single connection to us provides many connections to these new third parties. We provide a really new story for some of the older insurance technology providers or SIs to bring in, right? So we're kind of riding the folks who are already in there and have the relationships, because a lot of the insurers are trying to deal with the productivity issues now brought about by all the remote workers, et cetera, themselves. So we could rapidly ride in. So I would say that the answer is, partnerships with companies who are already in the door, who are looking to round out their capabilities, as opposed to, knocking on the door yourself as a startup with a certain revenue size and a certain smaller number of clients. That's a little harder. But partnerships are the way to go.
Right. So Bobby, should I go into LinkedIn, scrape every single executive's name from their contacts and just email them until they know my name?
Yeah, well, you'll get blocked. No, I think that's the worst strategy, right? I think I tweeted about that like months ago, where all of a sudden, I don't know about you guys, my inbox on LinkedIn gets bombarded by nothing but sales. And guess what I do? Ignore, ignore, ignore. I don't care how good it is. It's a sales message. I'm so much in agreement with Mark. I think if you're building a business in Hartford or any ecosystem, partnership is the way to go. And taking advantage of events, like good, solid events that are hosted in Hartford. Those are, there's so many events now, virtual events, people get zoomed out, but the ones that you will see that people attend where there's engagement, when they are getting value, and people know which events those are, they're not gonna go to a random event, I think being very selective in terms of what events you're going, and then partnering as much as you can. I think we've done several partnerships this year that we hadn't done last year because we were meeting people in person. Now we have to find different and alternative ways.
Yeah. Mike, what's your plan here for the next 12 months? If you were to tell me, give me advice on cracking into Hartford.
Yeah. First of all, I would say, do a Google search and find all of the events going on in Hartford, because that's really the key. Because what you'll find too is a similar group of people are always involved, and find out who those players are, and they would willingly share with you their email address, and you can follow up with those people. Another thing to do is, just like Mark had said too, is the partnerships. So follow up in Google, find out who the players are. There's so many events going on. Actually, there's this event going on now, Techstar Week. There's ITC that's going on. It's not necessarily in Hartford, but it's still around InsurTech. There's something going on Thursday, Friday, right? Connecticut. So there's tons of events. So get roped into the events. And a key thing as well is also give back to the community. This is one thing that I try to do myself, because I've heard a long time, and I found that it's true. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. So, put yourself out there and start. The biggest thing is put yourself out there and start.
If I may add to what Mike is saying, I think the amount of mentorship I'm doing has raised, which has been awesome, because now I'm finding some connections through my mentorship that it's coming organically. It's not like I'm mentoring because I need that. It's just, it's that giving back mentality is so important, especially with the younger any ecosystem are always looking for good mentors. So giving back has been really another avenue that that has helped, with some connections and engaging with ecosystems even behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll flip the table a little bit and say, I'm sure we've got some people working for carriers listening to us right now. How can they help you? Mike, what type of help do you need to 2x your business here over the next 12 months?
I think the help that we need is we actually need to have folks engage with us and willing to take that chance, right? So it's like a marriage working with the corporate. There are things that we would not be able to do, and so we have to temper like expectations. But what we really need to have that conversation and have a common understanding of what could be helpful. You know, startups need POCs, you know, for sure, and paid POCs, right? And time is very precious to startups, right? And so anything that the carrier could do with those things would be very helpful. You know, have the conversation and then also the expectations. Not to say that the work that startup insurtechs deliver is of somehow lesser value. And it shouldn't be perceived that way, because again, it's just literally the same people that would run your organizations in that sphere that has these offerings, right? I've done so many data governance setup in a leadership role, help people manage data. I've worked on most of the tools out there. I see the gaps, and so is Bobby, and I'm sure Mark. So we actually know where the gaps are, how to get value. We just need that opportunity to talk and for the carrier to have an open mind.
And Mark, what's your ask?
Yeah, well, I'm right there with Mike. I think that, you know, we're beyond the exploratory curve and we're for real now. We could add value, right? We could allow you to focus on other things that you know might be important internally, and we could actually do, you know, real work, real projects, add real value. You know, we're here, we're available, and we're ready to go. And you know, just think of us as being, you know, over that maturity curve and ready to do real life work. So,
Yeah. Bobby, okay, what does it take to get that office set up in 2022? I don't know.
Let's get through the pandemic first, right?
Right.
But I think, you know, I echo what Mike and Mark are saying. A lot of us have been or have proven that we can implement, you know, like for example, we've implemented over 5, you know, we've done 5 active carrier implementations, and they've been successful. And what I would even echo to carriers is when you're engaging with the insurtech, don't look at them from a lens of another like tech partner that, you know, think about it as I don't have many resources, but this is what I really need to solve this problem, and see which insurtech can solve that problem, or go to that startup community to say, I don't have resources, a lot of resources. I don't have a lot of time. Can you solve these pain points? I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of startups that have already proven that and can get you up and running in weeks, not in months, not in years, in weeks.
Yeah.
and usually an OpEx kind of model, right, where there's really no capital outlay. So
Exactly.
So the risk isn't there. You know, your resources can focus on the things that are important internally, and you know, let some of the insurance, you know, the new insurtechs bring in some new capabilities at a low risk, low cost model.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, it's sort of the old you know saying. It's like coming up with a good question is a lot harder than finding the answer, right? So I think it's you know, my recommendation to people, I would like Bobby double click right into what you're saying, which is come up with good questions. Now, we ran an internal, you know, we call it Solvathon back in March, and that was virtual everything. I will say you got to be patient as this happens. Now, you know, we're not going to put a big press release out. We just did, but I'm happy to talk to all of you later about this. We just did our first investment. So, and I say first of,
Awesome.
yeah, more, you know, hopefully more to come, Mark and Mike and Bobby. But it
Looking
takes
forward
takes
to
that
it.
one, right? It takes that
it
one
takes
taking that lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, you know, what I would say to companies is, you know, gosh, it's just persistence, believe in, you know, these people, you know, you know, find these startups who really are committed to making a change in the business, and really be willing to ride it out with them. And that means tracking down the procurement, getting the contract done, making sure this is not glamorous work. This is not like, wow, I'm doing innovation. Yes, I'm hounding these people like, I'm from, I won't say it on the the program, but it does take that. And I think, but again, I think the good news is the more you get that wheel going, the more easier it is for an organization to say, oh, I get it. Mike doesn't have 15 sales, customer service success service people on board to help him. Okay, but he's got something over here and we're going to look at him a little differently. So I think that's a really important aspect, but maybe just sort of maybe talk about, money. Who doesn't need more money? Although sometimes, sometimes you got to be real thoughtful about when you take money and when you don't. Maybe what's your perspective, generally on, change in what you've heard of investors, what you've seen or haven't seen in the Hartford area, and kind of where's the puck heading? Bobby, maybe start with you on this one.
I think from an investment perspective, knock on wood, from our perspective, we've kind of delayed our fundraising efforts to sometime next year. We've got a very good strategic partner that, from a runway perspective, we're good. What I share with other startups is, I think it's all about it's all about having a solid story as well as what value you're going to add, right? And really getting in front of the right investors, right? Don't spend time on investors that don't fund early stage startups, right? Be very selective. I was talking to a company that had kind of like a tracking of all the investors. Here's my investors that will fund me right now. Here's my investors that will fund me later, and a communication strategy amongst other investor types. That's the type of discipline that you've got to start to build out and have when you're working with investors. And we've seen press releases around investment. So investment is there. They're being very picky. It's all about adding value and showcasing that you can do that.
Mark, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I would tend to agree that, I've seen the requirements maybe get a little stiffer in terms of when they would put money on the table. And it's much easier to get money if you have $1 million run rate plus. That's a lot easier than stages earlier than that. Most courier-based venture arms don't necessarily want to be first position. They'd be second or third position and kind of helping to scale up. But there's plenty of money out there. I just think they're being more selective and seeing kind of who comes out of this. We've been fortunate to be self-funded through to this point, so we'll be targeting a raise in 2021. But you want to have a good story to tell, and you want to pick the right partners there. And if you're lucky, you don't have to take money too early.
Yeah, I think the lighter you can run, the more you can create smaller streams of revenue. I mean, Bobby, to your point, if you can make these projects bite-sized and start to get checks, huge win.
Yeah.
And Paul, I would also say this year there's been a lot of focus on equality and how do we create this ecosystem where we are going to start funding folks that have typically they don't get funded. It's the stats, right? Women are Black founders. And what I love this year is that focus on that. And I just hope that continues. It shouldn't be a fad. It should be, let's create an equal playing ground for entrepreneurs that they can take I'm just loving the activity. I just don't want that to stop after 2021.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I'd say, certainly insurance nobody would put insurance up the top of the pedestal for being an example of diversity, right? But I think the startups
looking at it now, right?
Yeah, the startups I think bring. I kind of look at the range and the talent and the people and the nationalities and ethnicities coming together to disrupt is probably too it has a negative word, but really change the industry. Bobby, I agree. I mean, I'm seeing amazing amounts of diversity come through the startup cycle, and that may be how we actually sort of break the the barriers here in the insurance space. That may be part of what you're doing. You just don't realize, you don't think of that as you're going and taking these painful opportunities. Now, we had we had a good investor event in February. We had maybe 30 VCs come to our event. Now, we did the math afterwards, and it sounds almost embarrassing, but to say this, but we actually had like $20 billion worth of VC money represented there in February. Now, we're going to do another one, and you'll all get notes, shoot some emails out about this probably late November that we're shooting for. I would say that the challenge I see here is, you've got angel investors who are, boy, you have to work with them a long time, maybe a year to get that $20,000 check. Or you've got like VCs who kind of want a sure thing. Hey, Mark, so tell me how you're going to 10x your business in 5 years, right? And I'll write you a check. And by the way, I want to be the first person on your cap table. I don't want you to have a 15 other people in there I've got to deal with. Okay, what's that? How do we fill that hole in the middle? And I know,
Yep.
I don't think this is a problem unique to Hartford, but I see it, kind of in our sector. I think that's one thing where, I'm personally pushing for us to sort of fill that gap, because we see companies that come through that, yeah, they're not a million, but they've got more than a PowerPoint deck, a lot more. How do we kind of nurture them along? We'll never be a VC firm, but I think there's some ways where collectively the community can put some money in here that would help bridge that. I mean, Mike, what do you see when you're talking to people? Show me the money, and then I'll give you some of my own.
Yeah. So yeah, what we've seen is that they, in a sense, right? They want to see some traction before they invest. But one thing I said, even with that event that NASA that you guys held, we were fortunate to be part of that as well. So that was good. So we still have conversations with some of those investors there as well. So they're very willing to open and to tell you exactly what they're looking for and what you need to get to the next level. And it's ongoing conversations, and it does take a while, because a lot of them don't invest in early stage, and just the fact that they're still speaking with us, though they don't make those type of investments, they're still looking at us as a potential exception. So that's what I see. And just to echo Bobby's comment too, and it's good to see a lot of the diversity, the investment in the diversity, because we really need it. And so it shows, and it's very helpful. So we have a lot of these startups that can succeed. And the next thing, I just want to go back to the corporate one more time as well. One thing that corporates should understand too is that you're assisting the community, right? And that's usually a corporate goal. So think about it in that vein, right? Rising tides raise all ships. So you're helping the community around you. You have a better talent pool. So think about it from that perspective when you think about working with InsurTechs.
Paul, the other thing to note there is most investors realize that the insurance selling process is a long process. It's not you do a demo and you get a check, right? It's usually measured in 8-10 months. So that's why it's so important for the the insurers to give the InsurTechs the opportunity, show what they can do, and once they buy, that gives the investors a ton of confidence that the product has value, and it'll be able to scale up, and people have interest in continuing to buy that. But again, if they're asking you how much you're making, right, and you come out of the gate and then it's 10 months before your first sale, it's tough to get up there with the way that sales cycle is so long. So it's so important to put us to work and let us show the value, and that helps us raise the money as well.
Yeah, great. Well, we're
I
real
would-
close. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to echo, let's not forget about strategic money coming from carriers. they are, a lot of them have venture arms. Even some of the innovation arms that haven't like quite got to venture arms have programs in place for startups for funding. It's a great way to, if they're excited about your product, don't be shy to say, hey, talk about investment too. That's
Right.
what we've done.
Oh no, I think the two should go hand in hand,
Yeah.
and it's good for both parties, because everybody wins if your POC succeeds. So we've got a couple minutes left. We're about 3 minutes from the end of our program. So anybody from the audience has questions, please fire them in here. Just a little bit on the personal side, Bobby. Okay, when you're not like reinventing the insurance space, I'm watching you post up your workouts. I'm telling you, you're on fire and on the fitness end. Is that where you're spending the rest of whatever other time you have in the day?
Along with my daughter, yeah, and my family. But yeah, I think it's with COVID, right? It's our gyms were closed for the longest time, so you've got to have that good mental wellness incorporation. So fitness for me, and what I love is this InsurTech fitness group that we've created on Twitter. And we all post workouts, we all challenge each other on stuff. It's just been amazing. And this group is super eclectic. Like Paul's part of that. We try to bring Paul in with some of the ride stuff. But it's been awesome. Like it feels good. Like I have like a virtual fitness family that I have to be accountable to.
Oh, it's great, and I'll get a little more here. I'll get some of you on Zwift. Mark, how are you staying sane? What are you doing outside of work?
Yeah, well, I finally took up golf. That's my new thing, and now I realize why I haven't done it for the last.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like,
years, but
what?
Yeah, I've never really played, and it's a challenge. So that's the latest thing I've added. It's because it is the official social distancing sport, right? Especially if you're not that good, the ball's all over the place. You're never near anybody else. So.
Yeah, I'd be very distant from you, Mark, if we went on the course. Trust me. The bushes do a great job of breaking up the airstream. Hey, Mike, how about you? What are you doing when you're not thinking about straightening out data for us?
Well, my wife and daughter said I spend too much time outside in the yard trying to perfect the lawn. So I think I spend a lot of time trying to get a green lawn. But I'm also an avid fan of working out, so I might have to take Bobby up and
join the group.
Join her group
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, listen, I'm following Nigel.
And Mark, we should connect for golf as well.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the top of the hour, and listen, thank you so much. Bobby, Mike, Mark, appreciate it. I'm assuming we got emails, and LinkedIn's a great way to stay connected. I would say we've got, if anybody else feels has questions, your startup, you want advice, go to them. They're great. Feel free to reach out to me, and listen, have a great rest of the day.
Thanks. You too.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.